Among the many luminaries in this star-studded hall, we have with us our chief guest, Shri BVR Subramaniam, IAS CEO, Niti Ayog. Sir is closely involved in shaping India's development journey on economic, infrastructure, and social fronts. He's been conferred with the position of Principal Secretary of the Home Department. Sir has published the book Conduct in Government, a valuable document on conduct rules for civil servants, and he's been honored with the position of Chief Secretary of Jammu and Kashmir. Sir has worked in the Prime Minister's office both under Shri Narendra Modi ji and Shri Manmohan Singh ji. Welcome to the conference, sir. May I now request our chief guest, Shri BVR Subramaniam ji, to kindly address the August gathering.
Dr. Sudha Acharya, Ms. Asha Prabhakar, Ms. Meenakshi Sahai, Ms. Meenakshi Kushwaha, and my dear friend and classmates in school, Aditi Mishra, and all the leaders of progressive schools who are here in this auditorium, other guests. I'm extremely honored, delighted, and happy to be with all of you here today. 50 years is a long time. So I think that's something all of you should be proud of, should reflect upon. And going through just the annual report was so fascinating. The range of activities that are conducted in just a year. So think of what all has been done over the last 50 years. Must have been a small organization when it was set up, and it's grown over the years, 300 plus schools, new schools being inducted today, high quality standards on the basis of which schools are being inspected and inducted. I think it's a matter for everyone to be proud of, to reflect upon the journey so far, be happy about your achievements, and also think about the future. Just as you're celebrating the 50th year, the nation is celebrating its 75th year after independence. Let's step back for a moment, away from our topic, because that sets the context for our topic. And what's the context? We, as we speak, probably either yesterday or tomorrow, have become the world's largest country by population. Now, that's a big number. It's 1.4 billion people, and India is going to probably plateau at around 1.55 or 1.6 billion. That's huge. We are a big country. I also keep saying, whenever I speak elsewhere, we are at a cusp in our development path. A lot of basic issues have been solved. Things like drinking water, roads, electricity, gas supply, all that has been done. The roti, kapda, makan issues, which were a big botheration over the last 75 years, we've probably reached the end of that journey. We've also crossed a certain benchmark as far as our per capita income is concerned, with $2,000+. We're the world's 5th largest economy, soon to become the 4th largest by end of next year, and probably be the 3rd largest by 2030. That's phenomenal. Could any of us have imagined this 75 years ago, that this is where India will be? People who were looking at India at the time of independence said this would be a failed state which would break up. We haven't, and a lot of that is to the efforts of our leaders and our education system, which has produced wonderful citizens. And the greatness of our country lies in its people. They are the people who have succeeded in India, outside India. We produce the largest number of CEOs as far as outsiders becoming CEOs are concerned in most multinational corporations. It's a matter of great pride. Many of them have come out of your schools and our own college and education system. People talk about a demographic dividend. The demographic dividend is because we are going to be the most youthful population for the next 20-25 years. Till about roughly 2050, we will be producing the biggest workforce in the world. 65% of Indians are below 35 years of age. This is going to drive phenomenal growth as we go ahead if we do the right things. Most nations who have crossed this cusp, which I am saying, actually crossed the bottom of an S-curve, and nations who have crossed this curve see accelerated growth for about 30-40 years in succession. in government, in ministries, in the place where I am, Niti Aayog, my previous job as Commerce Secretary, we were making projections of what we would be in 2047. I'll just mention a few numbers to make an impact. What will be the size of the Indian economy then? It's on a base case, worst case scenario, $30 trillion. Today we are $3 trillion. $30 trillion in 2047 is going to be larger than the United States is today. It's something we cannot comprehend. Per capita income of Indians is going to cross $20,000 per year. It's a different world. Just as if we ask our parents 50 years ago, 60 years ago, could they have comprehended where we would be today? They grew up in an era where to buy sugar, they had to go to ration shops. To buy a scooter, you registered for one the moment your child was born. You stood in a queue and needed a contact to get a telephone connection. All these are things of the past. You ask your children and tell them these stories, they'll think that this is a history book. This is not something they have faced. The era of shortages is over. I mean, most of us probably I don't have a ration card, and without a ration card, people couldn't live 30 years ago. That's the change that has come over these 75 years. But let me tell you, the next 25 years are going to be even more phenomenal. I mean, $20,000 per capita income, $30 trillion economy, that is going to be a different India. And that's what I'm saying is the context in which all of you are going to work. All of you and the children whom you are educating are going to work. And that's very, very important. I mean, I like the name. It's the Progressive Schools Conference. So the key word is progressive. You're not ordinary schools. You're thought leaders. You work at the frontiers. You are the people who are innovating in education. Innovating not just in curriculum, but the way curriculum is transacted, the way you are bringing your children up in schools, the way you are shaping them up to face the future world. And it's necessary that we have schools like this. Because what happens in your schools gradually percolates into rest of the education system. You may be just 300 plus, but your 300 influences the 6 lakh schools which are there outside. The few lakh children in your school finally end up influencing 25 crore children who go to other schools. So I think that's important. You are in a way the laboratory. You are at the frontier. You remember we all grew up watching Star Trek as a TV serial. You are Spaceship Enterprise. You are pioneering things, and whatever your successes are, the government systems then pick up and try to imbibe. Maybe they're not as well endowed, but parts and portions of that actually filter into that system. And I think that's very, very useful, important, and necessary. Not everybody has the capacity to innovate and new things. And so I think I compliment all of you. And when I went through very carefully through the annual report, which Dr. Asha Prabhakar was presenting, I think it was excellent to see the kind of work which you have been doing. I like the theme of the seminar which has been there. You'll be discussing, I've seen the sessions that are there. It's amazing. I mean, it's human-centric education. And the core theme is sustainability. And I've seen the program over the 2 days. It's amazing the kind of stuff that has been there. You're talking about one session is there on lifestyle for environment. There's a session on the blue economy. There's one session on sustainability. There's one on financial literacy. And there is one on SDGs. I mean, we in my organization are grappling with these as the central challenges that we need to face. And I'm happy to see that at the other end of the spectrum, where you're educating children, you're also trying to inculcate these and trying to see how these things can be included in the curriculum, how can children be sensitized. There's a very important role. These are the biggest challenges the world is facing. So all these things which I mentioned, $30 trillion economy, $20,000 per capita income, has a big if. And the big if is, if we do the things right. We can do a lot of things wrong. Nothing is God-given. That future is possible, but we have to make that future happen. And to make that future happen, we have to do a lot of right things. And the right things is, do a lot of right things from the government side, but most importantly, do the right things in education. Educate our children to be capable of handling the problems of the future. Often, education systems handle the problems of the past. We train our children to educate them to handle what was required yesterday. The colleges train kids for jobs which existed yesterday. Nobody is actually preparing them for jobs for tomorrow. I've actually created, just in the last 1 month, a separate division in my organization talking about future of work. What's the future economy going to look like, and what's future of work? I'm sure more than you, the students in your schools are probably playing around with Chat GPT and all the related stuff that is there. AI is a big challenge that is going to be there, but AI is also an opportunity. So the question is, how will work be? A lot of people are saying that AI is actually going to eliminate dull, dreary, and dreadful jobs, which are also risky. We have lived in services actually doing those jobs for the rest of the world. That's what our entire IT revolution has been. A lot of these jobs are going to vanish, but a lot of new jobs are going to come up in new areas. How are we going to handle these things? How is our education system going to handle that? It's very important. And the second big cloud that is there, which is hanging all over our heads, is sustainability, climate change. The impact of climate change is already visible. We have the coolest March and the wettest April, all these kind of headlines you're watching. What is all that happening? I mean, Canada has had summers of 40 to 43 degrees centigrade. Have you ever thought that Canada will have 40 plus summers? I mean, climate change, you see that the Arctic is actually shrinking. The ice cover there is shrinking. There are talks about large portions of the Antarctic shelf breaking off because of climate change and going into the ocean. Sea levels are going to rise. Now, this is something that's very important. And I'm very happy that you're addressing that right up front. And that's where the theme of this two-day celebration is going to focus on. Coming to education, I think education plays a very important role in all this. I'll just recite a small, there was a Raja Bhartrihari who was supposed to be a Raja of Ujjain, and then he became a monk, and he wrote three books, Vairagya Shatakam, Niti Shatakam, and Shrungara Shatakam. He actually wrote books on the full experience of life, which is Shrungara Shatakam at one end and Vairagya Shatakam. It was translated into Telugu, and there's one shloka there which actually focuses on education and why education is important. And that's where the role of schools is very important. I'll first read it and then I'll explain it. Vidya Niguda Guptamagu Vittama Rupamu Purishalikin, Vidya Yashashu Bhogakari, Vidya Gurundu Videsha Bandhudun, Vidya Vasishta Daivatamu, Vidya Kusati Dhanam Bule Dilan, Vidya Nrupala Pujitamu, Vidya Nerunganivadu Martyude. I'll just translate it. What it says is, Vidya, that is education, is a hidden source of wealth. It's a hidden gold. It gives you glory, honor. It gives you wealth, enjoyment. It is a hidden guru, and it is a friend in foreign lands. It is a special God who is your personal God, and it is a wealth which is matchless and cannot be matched by any other wealth. Vidya is honored by kings and rulers, and those who don't have Vidya are worse than animals. So what it basically is saying is education is one property that nobody can snatch from you. And that's the kind of education we need for future. That's the kind of education which we need to prepare our children for the days that come tomorrow. India has had a long tradition of holistic education. Our scriptures talk about 64 kalas that have to be there for children to learn and imbibe. And 64 kalas people translate as arts. It's not arts, it's 64 skills. And it includes arts, it includes sciences, and it also includes soft skills like communication, how do you present yourself. So this is actually a part of our heritage. So, what we talk about liberal arts and liberal arts education in the West, and we should bring them back. I think our ancients and our earlier generation were actually educated in liberal arts. When we went, at least, I didn't go to school till class 2. And I don't think I've suffered from that. The Finance Secretary of India has never been to school. He's Finance Secretary of India. So what I mean is, holistic education means you actually learn all the skills that are required to face life. It's not just math, it's not just science, it's not just one subject here and there. And when I see the kind of activities that are going on in your setups, in your individual school, I think that's where you are headed for, and I think that's the kind of education that is needed. We do not want children who are, monoclonal in nature. They can't have just one attribute. They have to have all attributes to succeed in life. And I think that's something very important. The other thing is we need to have active learning. And active learning is becoming more complicated. I mean, in government schools, you have all these things in nurseries, chidiya, tota, all painted on walls. But it's actually becoming even more complex. You got technology, you got computers. Children are actually got far more access to these things than probably even the teachers have. How do you use all that? The government is trying in its own way. They have a Diksha portal. I think the new educational policy of 2020 talks a lot about active learning. But active learning is not just primary classes. It goes to middle school, it goes to higher schools. And here I'll talk about one of the things which Niti Aayog is doing, which we have the Atal Innovation Mission. And through that, we are setting up Atal Tinkering Labs and we are setting up Atal Incubation Centers. I think there are 10,000 schools in the country where we have set up Atal Tinkering Lab. Guess why? I mean, it's useful to think why these tinkering labs have been set up. The first time computers were given to government offices, most people kept them there, and this is Rajiv Gandhi's time in 1980s, and they would cover them with a cloth. It's a very precious commodity, and nobody would try to switch them on because kharab ho gaya to fir paisa dena padega. So, let's not use it. Why? Because they've never used it. Now, think about your own children or the students in your classes. I mean, they play with mobile phones left, right, and center, drop them on the ground 30 times, probably break it every 6 months, come for a new phone. What is it? It's confidence about handling tech very early on in life. I think the Atal Tinkering Labs are to break that mental barrier, make children play with technology early on in life so that they're so comfortable as they grow up. They actually then pick up tinkering as a profession, go become innovators themselves. Even a fraction of them become innovators, that will set us on the path to be a great country. Innovation actually is in the mind, and so you have to break mental blocks, and that's what these labs do. I mean, India is doing great in innovation, but it's happening only in pockets. I mean, Bangalore is the third best ecosystem for innovation in the world. India has the third largest number of unicorns in the world. These numbers are there, it's stunning. The number of, you go to Bangalore and you go anywhere, you'll run into these, billionaire youngsters. And how old are they? 25, younger than my children. They're there and they've done it in 3-4 years. The question is, which we need many, many, many more of that. And I think that's the reason we need innovation. I think innovation has to be at the core of curriculum. And innovation not only to make money in normal commercial sense, innovation to handle the challenges. Innovation is going to come up with solutions for environment, for sustainability, for agriculture. There are innovation happening and all. They may not be getting the news coverage which others get. Somebody who does a Zerodha or a Ather or a Swiggy. But the Swiggy chap is only 25 years old. But the point is, there are other innovations that will happen. It will come out of this ecosystem. And I think schools should focus a lot on the ecosystem. Coming to sustainability, I'm happy that, the progressive schools are, gradually integrating sustainability into curriculum. I still remember, 15, 20 years ago, crackers. I think the schools started a movement, say no to crackers. I actually stopped crackers because my children said no crackers. So that's it. My fun went away because of their pressure. But the thing is, it's schools which actually started it. Children going on the streets, say no to crackers and telling parents, no, we will not buy crackers this Diwali. I think that's how change happens. Similarly, environment, lifestyle for environment. It's all about small habits. Switching off a light before you leave the room. By the way, we grew up that way. There was a shortage economy. So you always were told, light batti band karo before you leave the room. But we have gone into surplus economy, so that's never a constraint. But for sustainability, you have to close the water tap while you're brushing your teeth, do it only at the end. These are all small changes it can make. They said that 20 to 30% of global energy consumption and carbon reduction will happen if we are just careful about these small things, If you have to go 100 meters, no need to take a car or a two-wheeler, just walk. It's good for your health and good for the environment. So I think this is there because you are now going to mold a child who will then shape the future. They are the ones who are going to actually face the challenges of climate change 20 years from now. I'm sure you're doing a lot of stuff because if you want to train the children, you also have to train the teachers in all that. Because they've also come from the past, they're not into the future, so they need to be trained. The government does its own efforts, just like you have Diksha for children, there is some Nishtha portal for teachers. I'm sure all of you have your own mechanisms, but I think you should run workshops for your teachers who actually then imbibe these skills and then they pass on. I'm not saying these are to be the only subjects, but you can integrate them And that's how you develop a child who can actually be a leader in the world tomorrow. Another thing that's very important is employability. How many of our children are employable? Now, you are progressive schools, so you probably get the best of children also, and you get the best of teachers in your setups. But it's important that you keep innovating so that your children, it's not about admissions. I'm happy to see somebody was being trained on how to, what is CUET about, some workshop was held last year. All that is good. But they're going to be a very, very different world in future. And I think you need to train your children to be more employable. Pick up some vocational skills along the way. I mean, Bill Gates was a college dropout. Zuckerberg didn't go to college. You can keep reciting. Rabindranath Tagore was a college dropout. But they had the skills. Somebody became a billionaire. Somebody became a Nobel Prize winner. But they had the skills. So I think what you pick up in schools actually prepares you for life. So I think I will end here. All that I'm saying is good that you're focusing on these topics. India, as I said, is at a cusp. We are holding the G20 conference this year. It's a recognition of India's rise. India's rise in the world is a very benign rise. India is fundamentally a peaceful country. We are a force for good in the world. So if we do good, it'll be good for the world also. That's our heritage, that's our history. And I think I'm very happy that the theme of G20, which is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and that's, one earth, one family, and one future, has got solidly imbibed. This is something you should communicate to your students, to their parents. Be proud that you are Indian, proud about your heritage, and build up a world which is, sustainable, which is welcoming, which will last for, a very long time. And before I end, I wish this conference all success. I'm very happy, proud to be here. You should all be proud. It's a 50-year journey, and may the next 50 years be even better. Thank you very much.